welcome. I'm Lori Balderas, and I'm so happy you're here. Well, I have a lovely guest who's visiting me today, Becky Cooper. How are you today, Becky?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you for coming. Just right off the top, she is very involved in our church because her dad is the famous Deacon Don Huntley.
Yes.
He's famous to me and Simon, at least. He's been on this podcast 5 times.
5.
Wow. Yes. So you're following in your dad's footsteps.
I have my whole life.
So I really appreciate you coming today. And that's how I know you, is from your dad and from the church, and your mother, of course, as well. So I really appreciate you coming today. Thank you so much. And so our topic today will be people who leave the Catholic Church, specifically teenagers and young adults, because Becky has had experience with this. So we will be discussing why you left the Catholic Church and what or who brought you back, and what are some ideas or advice for people who are struggling with this, whether it be parents or grandparents or the teenagers themselves or young adults. So that's what we will be talking about today. So I'm very excited. So I know you're a very busy woman because not only are you a teacher, but you're a mother of 2 small children.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
So tell me about those children.
So my daughter Diana is 6, and she just started 1st grade. And then my son Emmett just turned 1 this summer. And he started running. I don't think he ever just walked. I think he just ran.
I think that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Simon's little granddaughter, our youngest grandchild, she skipped crawling.
Oh.
She's just decided, I'm going to walk now. So I know that that's a thing with some kids. And I know your little daughter is named Diana after your mother, Diana.
Yeah.
And I lovingly call your daughter Princess Diana.
And she calls herself that too.
Oh, I've called her that since she was very little.
Yeah, you have. Yeah.
And then her little brother, Emmett Richard Elias, right?
Yeah.
And I always say this, but my listeners don't know. So Richard is after your dad's best friend who passed away.
Yes.
He was a priest.
You are.
He was the priest I did my first confession with.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yes.
Oh.
So that poor guy, I hope I'm not the one that put him under.
Oh.
Because I spent so much time in confession with him. God bless him. He was so patient with me, but I had a lot to confess.
That's okay. He gave me my first confession as well. And I think after about the 20-minute mark, the teacher came over, because I was in 2nd grade, and knocked on the door and was like, is everything okay? And he goes, yeah, we finished like 15 minutes ago. We've just been talking.
Oh, okay.
So everyone was giving my parents that side eye, like, does she have that much to confess?
What's happening? Oh, my goodness. And then Elias is after Walt Disney.
Yeah.
Yes, because you're a big Disney fan.
We are, yeah.
I know.
And Diana's middle name's Lillian, and that...
Oh.
That's Walt's wife, as well as my husband's great-grandma.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
That's lovely. Okay, so that was like a little background on it. And then, of course, you're married. And what's your husband's name?
Justin. I've been married 8 years.
8 years. That's so nice. And then, so now that we've covered that part of your family, your little family, tell us about your family dynamic growing up.
So I had my dad and my mom, who you know very well. And then I have an older sister, Jessica. She's 3 years older than me. So we were always kind of learning the same stuff at the same time, which was helpful because she could help me, as we were kind of growing up. And huge sibling rivalry like everyone, but once you got off to college, then it got better because she wasn't around to steal my clothes. Then, then I had all my parents' attention, and so it was good. But my parents were always, really into having us like learn out in the world. So we'd go, like my dad would go on teacher conferences, and it would be in New Orleans. So then we would go explore New Orleans, and, so kind of all together. And wherever we went, he always found a church or a mission. Especially he was in California. Oh, this mission is right nearby. We're going to go to this one. And after I think the 5th or 6th mission, my sister and I would roll our eyes like, But now we've been to like all the missions. So.
That's amazing. Well, that's one of the perks of living in California.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I didn't realize that you traveled around with him and everything. That's so nice. I love that. That's what I used to do with my dad. Oh, that's really interesting. So, and then your dad has always been a deacon your whole life, correct?
Not quite. He became a deacon as I was graduating college.
Oh,
And we actually almost had his ordination and my graduation on the same day. Because they usually ordinations are in June. And for whatever, I don't know what it was, but for whatever reason, his ordination got pushed into July. So we almost had a heart attack moment where my mom's like, where do I go? Do I go to my daughter's college graduation or my husband's ordination? And, the Holy Spirit worked it out. And
oh, thank you.
it didn't worry. But now my wedding date is his anniversary date. I ended up getting married on his ordination date.
So, and what date is that?
July 16th.
July 16th. That's so nice. And your dad's birthday's in July.
Yes, it is July 6th.
Okay.
And that's my patron saint's feast day.
Oh, well,
It all just comes together.
that. This is such a Catholic moment here.
I know.
That's amazing. All right. So I have some questions for you. Let's just get down to it.
Okay.
Because this is a subject that I'm just always fascinated by. When people turn away from the Catholic Church, I'm fascinated by that in itself. But then when they come back is what I'm really interested in, especially when they come back quickly, like
Right.
you did.
Yeah.
Like, I think it takes a lot of people a really long time. They come back much later in life.
Yeah.
And I am just fascinated by the fact that you turned away, especially considering your dad's a deacon. Or, obviously you were brought up very Catholic.
Yeah.
And so I'm really interested about that. So why did you leave the Catholic Church?
So I think like a lot of people, when I became a teenager, I became just headstrong, even more than, the terrible twos. And I also became acutely aware of what was going on in the world. And so I started just naturally questioning things like, why, if God's so loving and so good, why does he allow this to happen and that to happen, or bad people to do bad things to good people? And I just had a lot of questions, and I didn't feel like I could ask them. I know I could have. I mean, hindsight being what it is, I know I could have asked my parents anything, and they would have been very open and loving to that, but I just felt like I couldn't. And I'd been in Catholic school my whole life, and I think it was just kind of how it used to be, where it's like, you don't question it. It is what it is. So that all just started kind of really getting to a head when I was in high school. And I had, a few, bad high school experiences like everybody has. And then I had a very close friend almost die in a completely avoidable freak accident. He didn't, thank goodness. But it just, as I was going on, my kind of anger kept boiling, and that just kind of pushed me over. Like, he can't be a good and loving God if these things happen. Like, there's no way. And I think that was what kind of pushed me over. And I didn't want anything to do with it, because it can't be good because of everything. And I thought I knew better and I could figure it out on my own, and I didn't need that. And I would be just perfectly fine.
I think
Hubris of a teen.
Yeah, I think that does sound very typical. Like that, even if somebody isn't Catholic, just the rebellious. We just did an episode on rebellion, and I think teenagers in general, young 20-year-olds, think they know everything. They don't need their parents. They don't need guidance. And they do.
Yeah.
And I mean, I went through that,
Yeah.
and thankfully I made it through. But I think that's very typical. So that's really interesting. And I was just wondering if your friends were also, your Catholic friends, were they also kind of doing the same thing, turning away from the church? Was it kind of like you did that and then they thought, oh, now I'm going to do that because Becky's doing it?
No, I was not a starter of anything. I had a few that, like me, were questioning, and but two of them, their parents were very Catholic, just like my family was, raised cradle Catholic, and I think they were too nervous or even scared to kind of go against it. So even though they had a lot of questions, they just kind of like tamped that down and just didn't explore that. I had a few that did. I think I had one that really did want to kind of step away because he was trying to figure out himself and who he was, and some of it dealt with like his sexuality, and so he knew where the church stood on that, and he wasn't sure if he was allowed to be in, if that was where he felt he was going, and so it caused him to kind of take a step back too. I don't believe he's returned. I think he like officially stepped away in college and is just kind of doing his own thing. But
maybe he'll come back.
Maybe, yeah.
God willing.
God willing.
Oh my gosh. So before I ask you the next question, which is, how did your parents handle this?
Yeah.
I'm going to go to a quick break.
Okay.
So we'll be right back. Have you ever wanted to witness the miraculous and walk where saints have walked? This is your chance. Join me, Lori Balderas, host of Fresh Catholic Podcast, and Father Matthew Miguel, as we walk with you through Italy's most sacred sites. From the Eucharistic miracles of Lanciano and Orvieto to the peace of Assisi, your heart will be transformed by these extraordinary moments of grace. You'll walk the hallowed streets of Rome, step into the history of the Vatican, and witness the places where faith has flourished for centuries. Each stop deepens your journey. Each miracle renews your soul. We invite you to join us on an unforgettable, life-changing experience.
Join us and let your faith come alive in Italy.
Have you been to freshcatholic.com yet? Our website? Oh my goodness, if you haven't, make sure you go there right after I'm done here. I want to tell you about everything we have going on there. We have the podcast is there if you can't find it anywhere else. We also have a blog, Fresh Catholic Comics. We have an online store with faith-based merchandise. It's all very exclusive to Fresh Catholic. We also have coffee that we're selling. Coffee, can you imagine? Fresh Catholic coffee, 17 flavors. It's roasted and shipped on the same day. You can save some for yourself, give it as a gift. It helps us out with our mission. We also have educator Charles Merritt is doing a whole series of things on our website. So he did a series on sin, one on angels, one on the Our Father, one on the Hail Mary. And he's coming up with new ideas all the time. And he also is doing a Bible study. Right now, he's studying the Gospel of Mark. You don't want to miss it. So if you're behind on all those things, they're there for you to see and share with your friends. So check it out. And we're back. So how did your parents handle this?
Well, not terribly, at least outwardly. It wasn't, I personally felt that they were very upset, almost like it broke my mom's heart. But, years later, and I actually called my parents to ask them that because I wanted to know if my perception was how you felt. And so it was interesting to have that conversation with them. And my mom said, yeah, definitely it hurt, and my dad too. And it was more that they felt, what could we have done differently? We tried to be good parents, and we tried to give her all the tools she needed to build this prayerful life with God. And what did we do wrong? Could we have done something differently? So it was a lot of kind of racking their brains trying to figure out what they could have done. And eventually they kind of had to come to this point of nothing. We did everything we could. We gave her every opportunity. We gave her every tool. Sometimes people just have to go through things in life.
That's so true.
And it turns them into the person they are. And it helps them later on in life because they'll encounter people who need their experience. So they really put their trust and faith in God, that he had a plan and he knew it was going to happen. Would they have loved it to never have happened? Sure. I mean, no parent wants their kid to go through any turmoil. But then looking back with me as well, they think it was actually the best thing that could have happened for me. And then it actually really helped them because of experiences that I've had. It definitely impacted their lives too.
That's really interesting. Yeah. And isn't it something when you become an adult and you can have these conversations with your parents and they can be honest with you about how they felt?
Yeah.
Instead of saying, oh, it was fine. We knew you would be okay. Everything was fine.
Yeah.
I think it's important for a parent to say, actually, that really broke my heart. Mm-hmm. Or actually, that really hurt me and I would cry every night.
Yeah.
I think that's good to express that at a certain moment.
Right.
And I'm happy that you got to have that conversation with them, because we also have a perception sometimes about what somebody else is thinking or feeling, especially our parents. Mm-hmm. And we don't necessarily remember that our parents are humans and our parents have lived a life also.
Right.
Or our parents have been, little stinkers on occasion.
Yeah.
And I think it's good as you get older to have that relationship.
Mhm.
So that's good.
Yeah, have open, honest dialogue. That's really important for relationships, especially as children grow and mature and become adults themselves. Now you need to change what that relationship's like. Now you have a relationship with an adult child.
Right.
This is a child.
Right. Or my children, two of my children told me when they became adults what they liked and what they didn't like about how they were raised.
Yeah.
And I was afraid.
Yeah.
But the stuff they were upset about were kind of funny. Like they shouldn't be funny, but I was like, okay, if that's the worst thing. But I thought it was really good, their feedback on like what they really liked, what they took value from, what they didn't think was great. And it's so far in the past that I can't get offended by it.
Yeah.
I can't go, well, no. I mean, it is what it was back then.
Yeah, you can't go back and change it.
Right. So it's interesting. And it helps you to be a good parent too.
Right. Yeah. And a teacher. Yeah. My students always giving me feedback, although that's a lot more recent. So sometimes that hurts, but
Yes. And what do you think changed your stance? You know, you had a stance and you were upset and turned away. What do you think changed that stance?
So my parents heard of an opportunity through our parish, through Our Lady of the Assumption, that it was the spring, I think, maybe the summer, where the youth group was going to have an opportunity to go down to San Diego State, I believe, for the Steubenville conference.
Oh.
And it was going to be 3 days down, staying in the dorms in the college. It must have been summer then. And they thought, wow, that would be a great opportunity for her to, see other young adults and teens her age experiencing that. Maybe it will turn it into a positive and have her not be so angry or so jaded toward it and be a little more open to hearing. They were just hoping that it would be a turning point. They didn't think it was going to be a massive, convergence of me back into the faith. My mom has told me that she was absolutely gobsmacked when I came back. My dad wasn't surprised because he had heard stories of teens going away and having really great faithful experiences. So he wasn't surprised, but he was a little surprised that it happened so quickly. He thought I would take a few more years. It was only about 2 or 3 years into me knowing better and stepping away.
So were you resistant to the idea to go down there?
Absolutely.
You were?
Absolutely.
How did they present that to you?
So
I mean, I'm imagining you're like, stand back from them, and they're coming up with this idea.
Yeah.
I can envision it.
Yeah, I think I rolled my eyes the farthest back in my head they can possibly go without getting stuck. And I told them, well, I'll go, but only if my 2 best friends can go. And me thinking I knew everything, my 2 best friends were in cross country and they had a meet that same weekend. And it started on Friday, and I think there might have been something on that Saturday too, but they were definitely running on Friday. I was like, well, there's no way I'm going to be able to go because the meet was way down, far away. And so I thought, well, I'll go, but only if they can go. And thinking I've outsmarted them. Little did I know, but how Deacon Don's connected to everybody. Like he says, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
That's very true.
He made a phone call and the coach got on board and the parents of my friends got on board and they made it happen. So they went and ran, and then their parents drove them separately down, and they made it for the night concert thing that they had in the big NCAA basketball arena. So they made it there by nighttime, and I was not a happy camper. I remember getting on the bus. We all were in the parking lot, and I get on the bus and I have a window seat and I am just scowling out that window. And my mom is she's upset because she's thinking like, what did we do? Like, maybe we shouldn't have pushed her. And I know she was pretty upset after watching me go. And they said that they spent the entire weekend just praying that it's a positive experience and something good comes out of it. So
were the friends that you insisted having come, were they Catholic?
They were.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was like you were just having some friends come. Okay. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And this reminds me, I brought this up in other episodes where I've heard that when teens go to retreat, that they start off really hesitant and resistant, and by the end it's like really life-changing to them.
Yeah.
And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Like if you can get them just to go.
Just to get them there.
Yeah, get them
like
there.
trust the process, kids.
Yeah.
Just go.
Oh my goodness. That's amazing. So let's see. So after you went to that, so you said it was rather quickly that you decided you'd come back. So like, did you come home from that and you were just changed, or yeah? Oh, wow.
I had an experience.
I wasn't expecting that answer. That's great.
Yeah, I had an experience during adoration. And my dad has said he is jealous, but not the jealous where like, you're really jealous. You're like really excited that they had that experience. And you're like, man, I wish it would happen for me, but I'm just so grateful it happened to you. Like that kind of jealous.
Yeah.
Like, I remembered it was Saturday night. And I wasn't really feeling much of anything. I was just going through all the motions, and at least I was with my friends. And the youth minister, it was actually Jackie Francois at the time. And so now she's all big in Ascension Presents, I think. She does her thing, with her husband. And she pulled me aside and said, okay, adoration is going to be 3 hours long. And I know that you are not into this. And I just ask that you be respectful, because there are going to be people who really are praying, and this is really, important to them. So just sit and just don't make a big deal. Like, whatever. It'll be great. We're going to order pizza after. It's going to be fine. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. And I mean, I can count those hours. The first hour was me, arms crossed. Oh, this is the worst. I'm so bored. And then I think after that first hour, I kind of went, okay, well, it doesn't help me to just sit here. So like, I might as well. And I remember thinking like, okay, I might as well talk to him. Like, all right, God, if you're there, I don't know if you're there, but if you're there, I'm so mad at you because of X, Y, Z. And I'm listing all the ways why I don't believe in you. And I'm mad and frustrated and what's not fair in life. And I don't know how long it was, but eventually I found myself on the ground, crying uncontrollably. I could like that kind of like, you need a paper bag to deep breathe in, because you can't catch your breath. You're just hyperventilating, crying so strongly. And I couldn't get control of myself. I couldn't stop shaking and couldn't stop crying. And at some point, again, I don't know how long I was on the floor crying, but at some point I felt like, when you were little and your mom would come and like kind of rub your back and go, shh, it's okay, mama's here, like that. I felt that. I felt that loving presence, and I swear I heard, it's all okay. And at that moment, it just felt like the wall that I had put up over the last 2 or 3 years had just come crashing down. And then I stopped crying instantly. Like it was like a switch had been flipped, and I just stopped crying, and I felt this intense peace that I have never felt since. Even when both kids are asleep and it's quiet at home, it's better than that peace. And I just felt so comforted, and I felt so loved. And I stood up, and I think they were doing a song or something, and I started kind of swaying with it and going with it. And, Jackie looks back and goes, what is happening? And my friends are with me, and I was on fire. And the only thing I can think of is that had to have been the Holy Spirit. That had to have been God letting me know. And I don't know. And the whole Sunday, I was so into it. I bought Catholic t-shirts that like, I remember I had one that I had like a beautiful like island scene, and it said heaven is better. And I remember I wore that on Sunday, and we came back up in time for the 5:15 mass, which is the youth mass. And so we were all going to go to mass together. And I was one of the kids at the doors welcoming people and like giving them like worship aids. And my parents were kind of taken aback, like,
who is that?
She's like happy. She's not angry. Like, okay. And then I actually was one of 2 or 3 that they asked to speak during the homily. And so I kind of spoke of my experience, and I think my mom cried, and they absolutely could not believe it. So,
wow.
Yeah, my mom has me tell that adoration story every year to RCIA.
I love that story.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that. Put a pin in that. We're going to be right back. Thank you for tuning in today. We really appreciate you being a loyal listener. I want to remind you that in addition to our weekly topic episodes, I also do Fresh Catholic Daily, the daily Mass readings. They're nice and short, 5 to 7 minutes, perfect for your drive to work or school, or while you're cooking, cleaning, on a walk. So tune into those, get your daily dose of Jesus. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, and I do little short videos every day. So tune into those, tell all your friends, subscribe, please, rate and review. We really would appreciate it. I'm just trying to draw people to the Catholic faith or back to the Catholic faith. Help me to do that, won't you? And we're back. What a story. I know that feeling. I know that feeling of, and it's hard to explain to people who have, not your same experience.
Right.
But I know the feeling when you have a moment or moments where I'll pray to God, it's so intense, and all of a sudden, it's quiet. It's so peaceful. There's nothing like it. I can't even explain it except to say it reminds me when you go underwater. And it's so quiet. I had a moment back in December where I was so hysterical. I went into the chapel. It was packed with people, which is unusual. I was so hysterical, couldn't breathe. I was crying so hard. I went up to the kneelers, crying so hard. I was praying, staring at the monstrance, staring at our Lord. And all of a sudden, I heard a similar thing. It's going to be okay. You're okay. And just, there's nothing like it.
No. And I haven't experienced it since. I would love to. But
It's when I need a lot of relief, if I pray a certain way, that's what happens.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I think it's the only thing that can make it better. So I love that happened the way it did. And Simon and I have a thing where we just truly believe that when God wants something to happen, he makes it happen, and it happens now, and it happens in his way, and it happens in his timing, and we have to just go with it. And the fact that you were resistant and you were, and that when you were saying that story and you said the walls broke down, right before you said that, I was thinking, oh man, this entire thing just crumbled down. And it's like, I always think about St. Paul. Where he's one of my favorite saints. And just that he was so horrible and so resistant, and that God, like Simon and I were talking the other night, Simon said, he just struck him down.
He had to be
like
blinded to get attention.
I love that because we need that. We need him to come in and just take control, but we have to be like open to it. So somewhere down low, you were open to it because I believe you were raised this way, and you were having a moment, and he knew when and where he was going to allow this. And it was so impactful that now you can impact other people. So I was going to ask you if after you came back, you ever wavered again.
A little bit in college, not as bad as in high school. Just because, when you get off to college, you're all alone, on your own for the first time, and there's no bedtime, and I can have ice cream for dinner, and so all the things that come with college. And my sister went off to college, and she had a great Newman Center on her campus. And so my dad was like, hey, check out your Newman Center. It'll be a great way for you to have your Mass on Sundays, and it's on campus. It's supposed to be really great. And I remember going, and it didn't vibe with me. Like, it wasn't great. It wasn't what I wanted, and I felt really let down. And so I kind of let that sink me a little bit. And I remember, I think I must have come home at some point, and my dad just asked, because he's a deacon, so hey, have you been going to Mass on Sunday? Because that was something that helped me, was when I went to college, he didn't ask every Sunday, like, did you go to Mass? Did you go to Mass? Like, it was nice that he would let that go and not ask. And every once in a while he'd ask, because I think that might have pushed me away more. But I said, you know what? I have a few times and I just don't connect with it. It's not working for me. And he stopped me and go, then fix it. I'm like, well, how? I can't run the Newman Center. He goes, no, you have a car. Go to a parish. There are parishes all over Irvine. I went to UC Irvine. Go and try out different Masses. You know how at our parish, the 9:30 Mass is totally different music than the 11 and the 5:15. Try different Masses, try different parishes, find one you like. And I did. I think I went to 3 different parishes, tried different Masses, and I found one in Newport Beach I just fell in love with. I loved their choir, I loved their priests, I loved the church, And I, pun intended, religiously went. Every Sunday I was down at school until I graduated.
Yeah, and that was good advice your dad gave you, because I know I have a church, I won't mention it, but I struggle to go to it because I go to Our Lady of the Assumption. I'm at home there. I feel very at peace there. And when I had to go to this other church, I didn't care for it, and it was depressing to me.
Yeah.
And I think it's important, and there's something for everybody. Just because I don't care for a certain church doesn't mean somebody else doesn't love it.
Right.
So I agree with you about the masses.
Yeah.
You have so many types to choose from. And if you don't care for it, go to another one. It's not about that. It's about, you do need to feel good. Sometimes if you're just visiting somewhere, you can go and just, whatever.
Fine. Yeah.
Yeah. But I also think that encourages churches to try to be engaging. I'm not big on when churches are trying to become too modernized. I struggle with that.
Yeah.
I like to be Catholic because it's traditional, and I don't want all the rah-rah stuff. If I wanted that, I would have just stayed a Christian.
Yeah.
A Protestant.
Right.
A Protestant? Is that what I want to call it?
Yes. Is that what it were? Maybe.
Yeah.
It's been so long, you don't even remember that you.
I know. So I just think that's really interesting. And I do think it's also, that was a good test for you, because you got this through high school. Then you went off to college, where a lot of people really fall off.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And you kind of already had that.
Yeah. And you've got so many different kids and different faiths. My roommate was Buddhist. I'd never met anyone who was Buddhist. And so, it was definitely a test, but it was like a really good test.
Right.
I wavered a little bit, let it bring me down a little bit. But after a year or so, I got over it.
Well, and I do think, I don't know what the answer is to this, except I do really realize when kids go away to school, like you're saying, there's all different types of people. You are exposed, not in a bad way, but you're exposed to things you're not used to, like different religions, different races, different types of people, which is life.
Yeah.
And I love that. That's what I love. I love all types of people. But I think however we can teach our children to be, like I always say, it's better to be a leader than a follower, unless you're a follower of Christ.
Yeah.
I think you need to be a leader because you should be able to go in to any situation and feel good and confident with who you are. And I used to be a chameleon. So whatever the other person was doing, I would take on that persona. And I did that until just maybe 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
So I was doing that all along, and I didn't realize it.
It can be hard to break those kinds of habits.
Right. I didn't realize who I was until much later, like when I was 50-ish. And that made me sad for me, because I wish I would have just been me. Because now what it's done is my kids go, well, this is a whole different thing. It's like, actually, this is me.
Yeah.
I don't know who that was before.
Yeah.
But this is really me.
Right.
And so I think that's interesting. That's something that, I don't know what the answer is again, but maybe if we can teach our children that you be strong in who you are. And when you go away to school, then you're going to be a good guidepost for other people.
Yeah.
Or like you're saying, your roommate was Buddhist. So you're not going to go there and try to talk them out of being Buddhist.
No.
But they shouldn't try to talk you out of what you are.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we need to get, not just with college, but with the whole world.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it's okay if somebody's different than you. You don't have to change who they are.
Absolutely. That's what I tell my students, because I teach in a Catholic school at St. Bonaventure, and not all my students are Catholic. You don't have to be Catholic to go to that school. And so a lot of them, and I teach religion there, so a lot of them, when the school year starts, they get nervous that, I'm going to try to convert them or make them do things they're not comfortable with. And I'm like, no, absolutely not. Like, we're going to pray together, sure. If you want to pray with us, you are absolutely more than welcome. If that's not your faith journey and you're not feeling it, then enjoy a moment of Zen. Like, we're going to pray, and you can enjoy that kind of meditation with us, and we'll pray for you, and you do your thing. And it really helps them open up and be more open to the conversations we have, knowing that it's a respectful environment.
Right. Well, funnily enough, even though I have a Catholic podcast and I'm very devout Catholic and love nothing more than to talk about Jesus, I feel very strongly when people find out I have a Catholic podcast, I'm very devout. I think that their first reaction is, oh, she's going to try to complain.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not, because I respect everybody. I, of course, would love everybody to be Catholic.
Yeah,
That's my
absolutely.
biggest dream in the world.
Yeah.
And I just feel called to do this. And this is how I've decided to evangelize, or hopefully evangelize people. But I want people who, because I have a lot of listeners that aren't Catholic,
Right.
that are interested or new or just seeking it out, like I was. And it's like, maybe they're going to stick with it and maybe they won't.
Right.
But then they get a sense of it, because I think that's a big problem, is like a lot of people have turned away from the Catholic Church. They really don't know why, or they might have a misconception about things.
Yes.
So that's why listen to Deacon Don's 2 episodes on misconceptions of the Catholic faith. They're very good. Look back. So I just think that's important. So, okay. So I think you've kind of answered this, but let's dive maybe a little tiny deeper. How has this experience helped you with others, especially your students?
Yeah. It's helped me so much, because it's helped me be more mindful and respectful of others going through a process like that, going through a questioning phase or even a full rebellion phase, because I've been there. I know what that feels like. I know the frustration and the anger that can boil up inside. And so it makes me very open to my students going through that, or my friends, or, anyone. And then I feel that it makes me more like loving towards that, where I'm not going to push any of my students to suddenly just sit and read the Bible straight, or go to our school chapel and pray a whole bunch of stuff. That's why it's okay, pray with us if you want and pray if you don't, and that's fine. But just know that I'm always praying for you, and I just pray for peace. I tell them, like, I don't even pray you're going to be converted. I don't, like you said, as much as I would love for them to be, and I'd love for them to come back, I pray for peace. Whatever that peace is that you need in your life, that's what I pray for. And I think my students know that that's genuine, and that I really do mean that. And so sometimes I'll have students that will ask questions. Anything that pops in their mind. And sometimes it's, nothing big, like, well, if, God did this, then why do we have that? I'm like, oh, that's a great, and I always make sure, so that's a great question, because I want them to feel that they can ask me anything. And I'm not going to be like, I'm not going to answer that one. Like, you shouldn't ask that. Like, no, God gave us the intellect he gave us, and we're going to question. He knows his children. He knows we're going to do this, and that's okay. So I always let them know, like, that's a great question. And then I'll explain it to them. And sometimes they don't like the answer. And I go, okay, that's fine. You don't have to like the answer. That's how it is. That's how God has it.
It's the answer.
It's the answer. But you don't have to like it. That's how it is. And that's okay. And sometimes they go, okay, fine, whatever. And other times they go, all right, interesting.
And I think it's good when we do put our foot down in on God's behalf, because, like, he, of course, can do everything he wants on his own. But when we have a moment, or somebody asks us a question and we give the answer, and it's that answer. And like, I love how you worded that, because I've said that before, where it's like, well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And
change that.
But I think especially our kids today, they're used to asking a question, being dissatisfied with it, whining and complaining, and getting their way.
Yeah. Getting what
And
they want. Yeah.
that probably works for them in other situations, but not with this. And that's why I don't want the Catholic Church to change their ways of doing things, to modernize anything.
Right.
I don't want that, because I feel safe and secure knowing God knows best. He created, he didn't make any mistakes.
Yeah.
We're the ones that mess it up,
Yeah.
but he didn't make any mistakes.
Right.
So you can whine and complain and sit in a corner if you want, but I think it's good when somebody comes with a question. I think it is good to answer, or say, well, that's a great question. I don't have the answer, but I'm going to get you the answer.
Oh, I do that all the time. Oh,
Right.
I don't know. Once you guys start working on that, I'm going to go.
Right.
I'll call Deacon Don. So
Yes.
I FaceTimed him in the middle of classes. Like, hey, they have this question and I don't have the answer here. And so I turn it around to them.
That is great.
Or like Google, or I'll go up, bring the catechism up and look it up. I do that all the time, because I don't know everything. Like,
Right.
yes, I'm their theology teacher, but my brain's not infinite. I have a 1-year-old. I live in Paw Patrol land and Cocomelon land. So I can't know it all.
Right.
And that helps them too.
Right.
To see, like, hey, it's okay to be like, I don't know, but I'm going to get that information. for
Right.
you. And like you were saying too, when we say, like, well, that's the answer, it can be hard for them, because they're growing up in such a secular society where they go, okay, well, I understand that that's the church's teaching, and that's what God said, But in society, this is how it's done, or this is where we're going. And it's like, okay, so that causes them to have a lot of conflict with it.
But that's not working.
Right. Yeah.
That when you really want to be honest with the world, the way the secular society is doing things is not working. It's just not.
Yeah.
And we've all noticed, we who are, Jesus, pro God, we're noticing, oh gosh, we not we, but the world has taken Jesus and God out of so many places, and it's not working.
Yeah.
And so I feel, I've always said this, that children and people in general, I think they feel more secure when they know there's an answer, and it's a secure answer. I've said this about my kids. They used to come to me with questions, and I'd say, do you really want to know the answer? Which means they go, because they knew it was going to be the real answer.
Right. Yeah.
But they felt secure in it.
Yeah.
When I would go to my mom, I would not get the answer. So I'd go on the street and find it out, which was wrong.
Right.
So we have
and they go to the internet.
Right. And the internet is not pro God at all.
And it's mostly wrong.
It's mostly wrong. So I think, they do need to have a place they can go, or people they can go to where they're going to get an answer. Sometimes it's mom and dad. Sometimes it's not. And nothing against moms and dads, but at that age, if they just have somebody they can trust, like a teacher, like a pastor, like a deacon. Also, Carolyn Curtis, who's the youth leader now at our church. Yeah. She was saying she's trying to implement an after school program where kids like preteens and teens can go and hang out in the youth room. And then if they have questions or whatever, and it's like in a low key situation, they might feel more confident to ask. And I thought, wow, that's a great idea.
That is.
Where they go and they feel safe, and the parents know, oh, they're at the church, and the people that are talking to them are going to be giving them good information.
Right. Yeah.
I used to feel that way. I would tell my kids, if you want to go to, I had names of people, if you want to go to these people, I knew those people would give them good, solid information. If they didn't feel they could come to me, but they did, because I made that door open for them. So I think that's really valuable advice.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes teens need to hear it's the same thing mom and dad are saying, but in a different voice.
Exactly.
Magically, it clicks.
Exactly.
And then mom and dad kind of go, but that's what
I know.
Okay, well, at least they finally heard it.
Right. And I feel like you being in this experience, you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
When you've been in an experience, you can say, I used to do volunteer work for the Crisis Pregnancy Center.
Okay.
And I would go help them get their rooms ready for baby. And because I'm an organizer. And one girl was really standoffish with me, and she didn't want to have anything to do with me. And we sat down to have a cup of tea, and I started talking about my past of my shenanigans. And all of a sudden she went, oh, well, I just would have no idea that you have been through all that. And I said, I know. And it just completely changed everything, because I don't know what she thought I was. But when I was just being honest with her and like talking, all of a sudden, it was like, oh, you could feel it.
Right.
So I would think that that's how it is with the teenagers at your school, or just teenagers in general when they have questions, that they're going to get good, solid advice. So, I mean, your experience was for good.
I think definitely. Yeah. God had his plan. I had to go through it because I was going to be a teacher, and I would encounter students that have faith crises, whether they be very small or big.
Right.
So I needed to have that ability to go through it so I could assist them and just be there for them.
Right. And I just believe common sense and street smarts and experience are such good educators.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what is some advice that you could give to parents, friends, students about navigating through this time? Like, do you have something where you have a takeaway and you go, this is what I think would be a good thing, besides what we just talked about having an open door and having open communication? Besides that, is there anything else that you would say is good advice?
Yeah, I thought of two, one for like someone going through it and one watching someone like a loved one go through it. So if you're going through something like that, whether it's big or small, I would say, don't pressure yourself, because I felt like I'm supposed to do it, and like the Catholic guilt, right? Like I'm supposed to, and I shouldn't be this way. It's okay to question, just make sure that you do it respectfully. So if you are going to go to your teacher or your parent or your coach and ask them because you're questioning your faith or you're questioning God, it's okay. Just do it respectfully. Don't come in very angry and have that chip like right there. Come in and you can let them know, like, hey, I'm really upset. This has happened. That has happened. I have these questions, because that will help the other person be open to you because you're being honest with them and you are coming from a respectful point. If you come in abrupt and very angry, they'll put a guard up, because especially if they're Catholic like us and we love our faith, it's going to feel like you're attacking them because we take our faith very personally.
Right.
And so we don't want that to happen. If you are a loved one who's watching like your child go through this, from my perspective, I would say don't pressure them. And pressure, like, don't ask them like, are you coming to mass with us? Are you coming to mass with us? You got to come to mass. Like, don't force them to come. I know it's going to seem counterintuitive because you're like, well, if they go to mass with us, then maybe something will happen. But if you drag them there, they're going to put up that wall higher. They're going to be more surly. They're going to dig their heels in more than ever before. And that's what I did, because my parents would still force me to go to mass on Sunday. And I would literally, in the pews, arms crossed, scowl, and I would not say anything. I wouldn't stand up. I wouldn't kneel. I wouldn't say amen. Nothing. Wouldn't do any of it. And that's not great. That's not great for anyone watching. That's not great for my parents. That's not good for me. So I would say trust God. Trust that He has a plan. I know you want what's best for your kid, and hopefully it will resolve itself quickly like it did for me. Oftentimes it doesn't. That's okay. But that's the scary thing about God, is faith is believing without seeing, and we don't know His plan. And we just have to have faith that there's a reason why they're going through this. So don't pressure them. Be very open to them. Invite them. Do you want to come to mass with us? And if they say no, okay, great. We're going to pray for you while we're there. We'll be back in an hour. If they're obviously old enough to stay home alone.
Yeah.
But yeah, just always let them know that the invitation is there and they're welcome and that you love them regardless of what they choose. Because I knew my parents loved me. I absolutely knew that back then. And still today. But I did feel that Catholic guilt that I had to go. So I don't know if back then, if I had said, no, I refuse to go, I don't know if they would have said yes or no. I like to think they would have said yes because they were open for me and loved me. But I don't know, because I didn't ask that. So maybe be open to them and give them that opportunity.
Right. I think it's important, like you say, where you express to your children what your wishes are. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, oh, well, we don't care if you're coming with us or not. Or, right. Oh, we've just resigned ourselves that you're not coming and you're not going to, you don't want to be Catholic
Then
anymore.
They feel like they're a lost cause.
Right. And so it's more like, we would love it if you would come.
Yes.
And then we will miss you because you're not coming with us.
Miss you, but we'll pray for you.
And then I do think that, God's going to bring them back when He wants. Mm-hmm. I really do.
It's not on our time. It's on time.
Yeah.
And that's scary.
Right.
Especially now, me as a parent now, I think about this could happen to one or both of my children.
Right.
And it's scary thinking about that. And there really isn't much I can do to fix that for them and make that go faster or anything. And you just have to trust.
Right.
That's so hard.
So true.
It's so hard.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to say or mention before we end this episode?
I have just loved being here.
This has been great. You've been a great
much for inviting me.
You're. I can tell that you're Deacon Don's daughter.
Oh, yes. I hope that's a good thing. I think it is.
I think it's a great thing. So that I really appreciate you coming, and I think this was really valuable. And it's exactly what I was hoping the episode would be, because I think it's encouraging, but also honest. Mm-hmm. And I do think, just from a parent point of view, I do know that it's heartbreaking when your children are doing something, like you say, where you don't want them to be hurting themselves or others. You don't want them to be in a bad place. But I do believe people learn lessons. Yeah. I worry sometimes when kids or people, you see them going off a cliff and you just hope it's not too late.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I think, just as a parent, as a mother, as a nurturer, mm-hmm. As a grandmother, I worry about that, but we do really have to put our trust in God. And I do believe when we go through bad things, if we can turn it around and help others with our story and help others with, our, like I say, our shenanigans or the things that went on. I think that's the key to it.
Yeah.
And to just, he knows what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
He knows what he's doing.
He does.
And that's how we're going to end this episode. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming today. Thank you. Love you. Bye.